Hello, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Zavada, Program Associate with Candid, and I'm joined today by our presenter, Laurel Malloy, who's founder and Chief Consultant of Innovations Quantified. She will be our instructor for our upcoming digital classroom on March 21st called Data Matters, Measuring and Understanding Your Impact. Laurel, it's great to have you back.
It's great to be here. Thanks so much, Elizabeth.
I wanted to get the conversation started by asking you, where do you find that most organizations struggle when it comes to effective data collection?
Well, the pain points can actually be different for different organizations, but I would say maybe the most common pitfalls I've seen are failure to prioritize, so sort of treating all results as if they're equally valuable, when in fact there's probably some that are more important than others. I think the second one is creating a data collection process that's too cumbersome and sort of seen as an add-on to the work as opposed to being embedded in the work day to day.
Yeah.
And the last, I think, is actually defining success or thinking you're done when you've collected the data, when in fact it's really about data use. And that should be really how organizations define success. Are they using the data they're tracking?
Yeah, and I know that you've worked with organizations of all sizes and all missions, so how will that inform the webinar? How will we get people to actually use that data and not have systems that are so cumbersome, et cetera?
Yeah, like you said, I've been doing this for 20 years now as a trainer and consultant, and over that time I've worked with all different organizations of size, mission, life cycle, and in fact the steps that we're going to be walking through are developed based on that firsthand work, and I found are really universally relevant. So the good news is, regardless of your size or your mission or where you are in the process, I think you can walk away with some useful tips that you can apply.
Great, I love it. I know our audience tends to have lots of small organizations. Sometimes we have chapters of larger organizations, so it's good to know that regardless of where you're coming from, there will be some practical tools there for everyone in the webinar. The next thing I wanted to ask you is, what's the one thing that participants will be able to do right after? We want to make sure everyone is able to start implementing what they're learning, so what are they going to be able to do?
Great question. I'm a huge fan of things being practical and immediately applicable. So I think one thing that people can definitely expect to do during the webinar and hopefully very soon thereafter is identify where they are, what their sticking points have been around data collection and use, and then what are some strategies to become unstuck. So again, that may be different for different organizations, but I think folks can walk away with a real concrete idea of how to proceed and support their organization's efforts.
Great. And I know you're one of our returning presenters, so hopefully our audience has gotten to get to know you fairly well. But this time around, as we get to know you, I wanted to ask you, are there any just favorite books in your collection?
Well, one that comes to mind, and I read it at the very beginning of my career, is the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And I found it hugely helpful. In particular, one that resonated was Begin with the End in Mind. And why I've loved that throughout my life, both personally and professionally, is it helps me stay focused on what I've decided matters most and cut out all the noise that inevitably pops up. But I think it's a really good parallel to what we're going to be covering in the webinar and what I typically do with my clients, which is clarify what matters most to you and give yourself permission to cut out the noise and really focus on those pieces by beginning with the end in mind, getting clarity about what you want to accomplish and making sure your efforts support you from there.
I love that, Laurel. Well, again, it's been fantastic working with you, and I'm so glad that we can have you back. I'm excited to continue the conversation on March 21st. We hope everyone in our online audience can join us as well. So be sure to register on grantspace.org by March 13th to take advantage of our early bird pricing. And of course, if you can't join us live, you'll always get the recording. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Laurel.
Absolutely.